Hello and welcome back to the channel. We had an unbelievable weekend of sport this weekend with World Cup soccer, GAA action, racing from Royal Ascot, and of course we had the US Open in Shinnecock Hills Golf Club. So without further ado, this is the weekend review. First up in World Cup action, make sure to head to my channel, and I have a playlist as well in there of all my World Cup recaps where we looked through every single World Cup game of the tournament in either short sentences or long sentences. You're going to get the gist of every single game from every single day of the World Cup. So if you like them World Cup recaps, make sure and head and to have a look at them on the channel. First up then we have golf, and of course we had the US Open in Shinnecock Hills. Wyndham Clark managed to win his second US Open, holding off Sam Burns by one shot in what was a very tight final day in the US. Shinnecock Hills once again proved to be a very demanding test, but everybody was very praising of its kind of upkeep and the challenge that it had, while also being very fair on every single golfer on the field. The tournament featured several swings of the leaderboard and player form. Tom Kim obviously impressed as well, and Scottie Scheffler was unable to mount any sort of a late comeback on day 4, but a savage weekend of golf was had in Shinnecock Hills Golf Club. Next up then we had horse racing, and of course we had Royal Ascot races, with Aidan O'Brien picking up a major milestone 100th win of the festival with Scandinavia in the Gold Cup. And another major point of that win for Scandinavia and Aidan O'Brien was that it was his 10th Gold Cup win, further cementing himself in the Royal Ascot races. The meeting managed to produce high-profile wins, major shocks and close finishes across the group races. A significant draw bias on the straight course became one of the bigger talking issues that trainers and connections alike thought that it might have had a bit of an impact on the results throughout the races. Then to finish up, we head on to the GAA action. Cork and Clare qualified for the All-Ireland Senior Hurling final. Wicklow and Down will face off in the Tailteann Cup final, and Cork and Kildare will be contesting the All-Ireland Minor Football final. So before we finish up, let's now get on to the main event of the weekend, which was the round 3 of the Senior Football Championship, and we also now know the quarterfinals, which will be happening next weekend on next Saturday and Sunday. So the first game there, of course, was between Kerry and Armagh at 4 o'clock in Killarney on Saturday. Kerry winning the game by 13. Look, I wasn't expecting it in the slightest. Now, I did say obviously before the weekend that if we were going to see whether Armagh would take last week's loss in their stride, or if it was going to really carry them down, I suppose. And that's probably what it did in a way. They were in the game for large periods of the first half, but the kind of mess up that they had just going in before half-time, before the hooter, which gave Paul Ganey the goal and put Kerry 6 points up at half-time, completely killed the game off. Unbelievable controlled performance from Kerry, 110 from David Clifford. And you know, when you're there watching the game, you actually don't think that he's after scoring that. You know, it was only after, when you come out and maybe check Scorpio or whatever, that you're turning around and saying, geez, David Clifford scored 110 today. And it's because of his class that oozes out every single game, and he takes his points, he'll kick a goal, his 2-pointers. You don't really notice it, and then after every game you're shocked by what he scores, but he's involved in everything, so it's very hard to be too shocked really about it. But look, a superb performance by Kerry in Killarney, shrugged off Armagh very easily, and are now into the quarter-final. Then the second game was at 6:15 on Saturday evening between Mayo and Meath. Mayo obviously won that one by 3 points. Meath managed to let slip of a 10-point gap, which is scandalous, really. Red card or no red card, Ronan Jones. No, look, it was harsh. It was very harsh for a straight red. I think a yellow would have been enough. And like that, in a way, I suppose you could bring it back to the Kerry and Donegal game that time in Clarny, that the red card completely ruined the game. But I suppose Donegal had a decent lead at half time, and I think they were up by 5 points that day at half time. And the red card came out then in the second half, and obviously we know what happened. But I think the red card for Ronan Jones was in the second half. They were still somewhat comfortable. I know your head had dropped some bit, but I think to let it drop that much, where you before as well are starting to let go of a 10-point lead. I don't exactly know what the wind was like there up over there, if there was one for Meath in the first half, and then obviously went to Mayo in the second half. I'm not too sure, but overall, I think letting a 10-point lead slip is very poor from Meath, red card or no red card. But the red card was harsh and was probably the biggest talking point of the game. Donegal against Dublin then was at 1:15 on Sunday in Croke Park, live on RTE, which was absolutely brilliant. Dublin managed to win by 4 in the end. So look, we can talk about people always say that Kerry were the favourites of the All-Ireland this year and all that kind of jazz, but I think if you beat Kerry in Donegal, in Killarney and in Croke Park all in the same year since Kerry won the All-Ireland last year, I don't care. Donegal are favourites. They were favourites. I will call a spade here now. Look, a bit of a shock, I suppose. Maybe not for a lot of people from Donegal, because they might have seen it coming after the Cork game, and it's probably not a major shock really. Dublin were kind of happy with how they performed in the previous round against Cavan, and I suppose they were just trying to push on from there. In terms of, you look at the scoreline that it was, and you look at the fact that it went to extra time, and you'd be saying, geez, this game had everything, the 4 black cards, all that. But in truth, it was a game that was deprived of any real quality. Donegal just looked really leggy throughout, and Dublin, of course, kind of started to run out of steam in different points of the game. But the wides that Dublin kicked, if they scored half of them, they would have actually hammered Donegal. So I think overall it was a very quality-wise very poor game. In terms of watching it, you were kind of on the edge of your seat, especially coming towards the end of full time and going into extra time. I think going into the end of extra time, now look, the crack with Michael Murphy and the 4 black cards that was handed out, I think something was said to him before he kicked the ball over the bar for the 2-pointer. Now, in my own opinion, and I kind of had the same opinion about Kerry that day, that Kerry shouldn't have gotten involved in anything, and when Michael Murphy put that ball over the bar, he should have just went straight down the tunnel and came out then for extra time. But because you're after getting yourself back into the game, anything like a big fight and things like that, while it might kind of G up your own team, it can also G up the opposition. And I think Donegal, I think Michael Murphy was probably silly there in a way. He's not one to shy away from a bit of a scrap or a melee or a shamazel or whatever you want to call it. But I think he could have just been a bit smarter there, to be totally honest, and just let it ride out. And they might have came out with a bit more of an intent. But I think the fact that both sides got black cards, including Michael Murphy, I think it killed off a small bit of momentum that Donegal might have had from that 2-pointer. Look, so look, Sean Guyton as well was brilliant when he came on. He came on just before the end of full time. He scored, I think it was 4 points that he got in extra time when he came on, and a lovely 2-pointer as well from him. So that's another positive to take from Ger Brennan and the kind of new kind of crop of players that he's trying to bring in. Then of course we had Monaghan and Westmeath to finish up the weekend, which was on yesterday Sunday at 4:00. Monaghan won by 6. Westmeath's dream year comes to an end, which is a bit unfortunate. It was a tight game for probably the first 40 every time kind of every 2 minutes in the score they were level again, but Monaghan just managed to push away. And then Jack McCarron was superb, of course, scoring 1-5 as he has been for a lot of this championship. As I said, look, I'm slightly disappointed in a way because I just liked watching Westmeath play this year, but Monaghan are kind of slowly. I think it's crazy in a way, and I know you can never take anything off of league performance or whatever, but I think a bit of it comes into the fold as well. And for a team who had such a poor year in the league to be now playing in an All-Ireland quarter-final is some going, and they deserve every sort of plaudit that comes their way. So of course then the draw was done this morning for the quarterfinals, which are going to be played next Saturday and Sunday in Croke Park. Both days are going to be double headers, which is absolutely brilliant as well. Dublin face Galway, Cork play Mayo, Tyrone against Kerry, the old foes again reunite. Last year's All-Ireland semi-final is now this year's quarter-final, and Monaghan face Louth. Look, Dublin and Galway, that's another very good one. I think Galway, as I said, I find it a bit hard to be too impressed by Galway so far this year because they've played Kildare and Westmeath. Realistically, historically, in the last year or so, or few years, really 3 or 4 years, you'd be expecting Galway to win them games anyway. So it's very hard to then be impressed by it. Dublin, of course, as I said, beating Donegal, big shock. You could say that win would give them confidence going into the quarterfinal, which of course it could. But as a Kerry supporter, coming out of that game yesterday, if Kerry got Dublin in the quarterfinal, I would not have been too disappointed, because I think if you miss 11, if you kick 11 wides against Kerry, they'll punish you. It was just shocking that Donegal didn't punish them, really. Cork and Mayo, Cork could be flying out the traps in that one, and of course Mayo as well. That comeback at the weekend will serve them well, I think. But I think if you have a player there like Stephen Sherlock for Cork, just a good shooter, it's going to be a good contest now between himself and Kobe MacDonald to see actually how that goes. But it just wouldn't surprise me if Cork managed to make it to the semi-final this year. They're going under the radar a small bit. I think they've played 2.5 brilliant games. They were brilliant for the first half against Kerry and Clare. Fair enough, grand, the first half, and they couldn't manage it on after that. But they had a superb win against Meath, and they had a brilliant win then, of course, above and Ballybuffet last weekend against Donegal. So I definitely wouldn't be writing them out of the equation. Tyrone and Kerry form always kind of goes out the window on that one. It was tight for large periods in the semi-final last year, but Kerry obviously managed to push away, and I do think that'll be what will happen again next weekend. And Monaghan, Louth, Monaghan are... they're slightly they're slowly but surely tipping away. Louth's game against Armagh, of course, last weekend was so tight and scrappy. You were kind of... No, I know it's very hard to take that game into account when talking about the Armagh and Kerry game on Saturday, but if that's how Armagh showed up, and I know Louth won, so they'll be on a high, but I actually see Monaghan going through in that one, to be honest with you. But look, that was the draw. We still need to find out what days and times that each game will be on. But look, that is the weekend review. If you managed to enjoy the video, please like, subscribe, and share the channel to someone who you think would enjoy these videos as well. And until the World Cup recaps, that, as I said, will be coming hopefully every day this week, and the weekend preview, probably GAA preview, I think I'll just do next weekend with the quarterfinals. Until then, I'll talk to you later.